And I think a lot of teachers these days are kind of like semi-activists, and they think they can reorder human society, and the easiest way to do
God, Bill, you're so cool most of the time, and then you become this curmudgeon, almost like
it's
right
not
wing sounding.
is
Or
it
what is
not,
that?
you don't excuse me, that's an ad hominem argument. Or should we stick to the facts and the issues, or
Okay.
should I talk about you as on a personal level?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to be like
No,
personally
but
insulting.
yeah, but I get that sometimes it's like, well, I can't really argue with this on the facts, so I'm going to say,
Okay,
oh, you're a
I'm
mean old
sorry.
man who's saying get off my lawn.
Okay, I
And that's
apologize.
not what I am. And let's just stick
Bill
to
Maher is
what's
so
Okay.
reality.
sensitive. Oh my God, you baby. Did you ever survive as a stand-up comedian? What the is wrong with you? You just made her point right to her face. You are. Not only are you an old man on your lawn, but you're also a butthurt wimp. What the This is ridiculous, bro. Every comedian I've ever known, or anybody who was even aspiring to be a comedian, has just prided themselves on being able to be ruthlessly dragged and take it on the chin. Oh my God, dude, he is just a triggered little snowflake right there. She mildly pushed back at him. She was being fun with him. They were being playful and bantering on what is supposed to be a fun and playful, and he immediately pulls the plug out underneath it. Are you kidding me? Dude, what a wimp. What a baby. Absolutely. But do you want to go ahead and move on to a little bit of the Marianne Williamson, Bill Maher segment? Gavin had sent me this clip this morning, and I was like, damn, it looks like Bill Maher has been spending a lot of time at like Caribbean swinger clubs. If you take a look at his fit, man, it's interesting. He's always been like a wannabe Hefner. I remember reading that about Bill Maher, that he like always like he was just like a real horn dog. Like he would just hang around the fucking Playboy Mansion all the time trying to get laid and shit. And he dresses like it, man, for real. You look at this place, I'm like, if I stepped in here and I was like a woman under the age of 50, I would be like, oh no, I am unsafe. Like, look at this little den that he's got going on for you here. It's like, oh God, I don't know what you're going to propose to me, but I'm not going to like it.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to like be mean to the guy's fashion sense. I don't necessarily have the best fashion sense ever, but come on, bro. What's this
You
shirt?
could pull it off. You could pull off the Caribbean swinger look, Gavin. I don't think Bill can.
This isn't even really a Caribbean shirt, though. This looks like the pattern of the fucking roller skate rink from like 8th grade. Remember?
But you could totally imagine a guy from Johnson County wearing it on his cruise.
Yeah, that is definitely true. That is definitely true. And you know that shirt probably cost $1,000 for no fucking reason. No reason. You probably could have bought that same shirt at like fucking Target for $20. Yeah, H&M. But I'm sure whatever the fuck Bill Maher is wearing cost him like at least $1,000 for no reason. Yeah. Anyway, I thought this was a pretty interesting conversation. It's pretty long, so we're probably not going to watch the entirety of it, but I figured we'd react to the first bit. And then there's a clip or two also that I wanted to play if we don't quite get to those parts in the conversation. But this was an interesting podcast. I think it's a good thing that Marianne Williamson went on Bill Maher's show. He does have a massive reach. And despite the fact that he has definitely been trending to the right recently, he's been going really hard on the woke stuff, on the trans people in sports, culture war stuff. Despite that fact, he still does have a massive reach, not just with the right, but with liberals, with older liberals. A lot of people that vote Democrats still do like Bill Maher. So I think it's a good thing she went on his podcast, because as much as I disagree with Bill Maher on stuff, he wasn't just trying to make her look bad. Like, he clearly was actually interested in hearing what she had to say and having a conversation, which is really where Marianne shines, right? Where she can really lay out her vision and talk about the way she sees things. And I think that, people end up agreeing with her, which we're going to see reflected in the comment section, by the way. Almost universally positive reception for Marianne from Bill's audience.
We have in this country, I feel rhetorically, is from people I forget either side of it, just who's going to say what they really think, as opposed to what they are supposed to think, what they're indoctrinated to think. I think most of them don't even know what they really think. We just live in an age of indoctrination on both sides. Would you agree with that?
I would, actually. I think that people are so afraid of being canceled, and I understand where that fear comes from also. Not only do you have to say what you're supposed to say, but you have to say it the way you're supposed to say it today, as opposed to how we might have said it if you're older and we said the same thing, but we said it differently.
You have to be happy about it. You have to be happy about men on the women's swimming team. You
can't be neutral on anything. You can't just be curious.
Yeah.
You can't just be open and
You have
thinking
to be
about it. You
thrilled
can't be a
this is
process.
going on,
Yeah.
and it's a great thing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
What are you drinking?
Arnold Palmer without alcohol.
That's what I drink when I go out to a
Mhm.
restaurant. Because
By the way, I'm interested in your opinion on this, Zach, but I actually think that Marianne Williamson handled that perfectly. You guys might be wondering, like, well, she kind of just breezed over that. Bill Maher said some cringy, boomery stuff about wokeness and, trans athletics or whatever. And she kind of just, went along. I actually think that was the right move because what she didn't do was fall for the bait. She could have fallen for the bait and spent the first 30 minutes of this fucking conversation arguing with Bill Maher about trans people in sports or whatever. But the fact of the matter is we know that Marianne Williamson is a staunch ally of the LGBT community. We've had her on our show. She expressed 100% support for the LGBT people and, acknowledge the fact that the right wing is waging war on them right now. So I don't think we can question her, credentials when it comes to that, not to mention the fact that her campaign has some of the highest support from the gay community that I've ever seen for a presidential campaign. But I actually think it was really smart of her to just kind of be like, yeah, totally. Cancel culture, huh? That's crazy, right? Let's move on to actually talking about serious things because I'm not going to spend 30 minutes getting into the weeds about culture war bullshit with you like you want me to. And I think that was a really smart decision because if you're just someone who tunes into Bill Maher and already agrees with him on cancel culture, I think that was kind of disarming. And now, as you're going to see, we get to hear about her economic vision and the more important stuff instead of stupid culture war issues that affect no one.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. And I think that it's kind of like, it goes back to when Crystal was on Rogan and like everybody was like chastising her because she didn't like jump down his throat at like an off-colored comment that he made where and she kind of just chalked it up to like a women be shopping kind of like a dad like comedian like whatever like yeah you did say something offensive when you said men participating in women's sports, but like you were trying to be funny and I think the best thing is for everybody to know that joke didn't land. Right. And then you just move on and you're like, okay, now let me tell you about what I actually think that I can, make a successful pitch to your argument or to your audience, with, which is the shortcomings and how the American middle class is falling apart and how people are working more than ever for less money. They feel like they don't have any hope for the future. They don't feel like either political party is representing them, et cetera, all things that Bill Maher's audience is going to be receptive to. Again, instead of spending the entire time making the case for something that they may or may not change their mind about. And that's also something that dominates a lot of the discourse already. So I didn't mind that either.
Yep.
I don't want to drink, but here I can have my soda that doesn't have bad sweeteners in it. But are you on the campaign trail?
I am on the campaign trail.
That must be grueling.
It is grueling. It is very grueling. It's a mix of awful emotional roller coaster and really exhilarating at the same time.
What's the exhilarating part?
Talking to people. The American people are not the problem. The sclerotic political and media systems that suppress and thwart the will of the people is the problem. But when you actually just are out there talking to people, people would ask me, what was your experience last time? And it's even more so this time that the system, the political media industrial complex is even more corrupt than I feared, and the people are even more wonderful than I hoped.
I don't agree. And again, I'm glad you're here because we could be honest about this and say we appreciate each other for saying what we think our truth is. But I sort of understand why, as a politician, even if you didn't really believe that, you have to say that. You can't start.
No, I don't say things you have to say. I'm not running saying things.
So
I think we have different experiences, that's all.
I'm just saying, I don't think you can ever separate the people from, this government that's thwarting the will, not in a country like this. Yes, of course, in behind the Iron Curtain, the will of the people was not what the East German government wanted. That's certainly not the case. I think our government is a reflection of the people. I think you let the people off the hook a little too easily.
That's such a stupid thing to say, by the way. Hillary Clinton literally got more votes than Donald Trump. And Trump still became president. So how the fuck are you going to blame the people for that? They voted against him and he still became their president regardless. And that's not even to tackle or address the fake duopoly, which, you know, gives us fake options in the first place. Hillary Clinton wasn't a real option. The people wanted Bernie Sanders, but because of the fact that we don't have real democracy and the fact that DNC operates as a corporation and not an actual democratic body that can be held accountable by the people, they gave us Hillary anyway. And the option was Hillary versus Trump. Hillary still got more votes, but then Trump became president. How is that the people's fault? How the fuck is that the people's fault?
Oh, 100%. And also, it's only something that like a rich asshole could say. Somebody that's completely out of touch, that doesn't know that it's actually corporate power and the elite. And like, you know what I'm saying? Like the 1%. It's like, oh yeah, that's how you know you are part of the 1%. I don't know, man. Things seem pretty good. Everybody that I know seems to, you know, land of the free, home of the brave, bro. We're doing better than ever. And it's like, yeah, that's because you haven't talked to somebody that made less than $500,000 a year unless they were working for you. You're fucking, you know, in 30 years.
Right. Right. And you want to talk about, oh, you know, half the country doesn't even vote. That's true. But guess what? If you don't live in one of 6 states, your vote doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter who you vote for because of the Electoral College. If we had a popular vote system and people actually thought that their votes were being counted and that, you know, democracy was real, then I think a lot more people would vote. But yeah, it's just so out of touch to say that.
The reason we have the people we have, it's you know, they didn't get there by answering a want ad.
Well,
They got there because people voted for them and their policies, and politicians, yes, tell people bullshit, but you know the main reason they tell them bullshit, because if they tell them the truth, they'll throw them out of the race.
okay, so what you need is somebody who doesn't mind being thrown out of the race. Somebody's got to tell the truth. And when you just said you think I let the people off the hook too much, and the way I see it, you let the government off the hook too much. Because if you look at poll after poll, for instance, the majority of Americans, both Democrats and Republicans, want universal health care. If you look at the polls, the majority of Americans, including Democrats and Republicans, want tuition-free college and tech school. If you look at the polls, the
Of
majority
course, they want free things. I want ice cream
no,
too.
those things aren't free. They are how your own tax
But
dollars are
Marianne,
used.
come on, what easier statement could you ever make in politics than people want? Yeah, they want. That's not where the rubber meets the road.
The rubber meets
yes, they want free healthcare. What kind? What are they willing to sacrifice for it? Are they willing to? I mean, why don't we have good healthcare in this country? It's because they never really learned to tame the corporations.
Exactly my point.
Okay, but who lets that happen?
The government,
people.
the legislators who are doing more to
Right.
serve
Who-
the profit-making goals
are
of their
elected
corporate
by the people.
sponsors. No, oh, Bill, come on. I
Somebody
know.
sends Ted Cruz to Washington.
Well, that's Texas, my home state, so I can say it. So,
Well,
yes, but the obfuscation, Bill, and the suppression and the thwarting, and I know that. I'm running for office.
Yes,
I'm in the
sure.
belly of that beast right now,
From the
and I know
left
how
as
they
well.
manipulate narratives. Absolutely, the left as well. You know,
Okay.
it seems to me that if you have any two Americans, you were talking about the indoctrination before. If you talk about any two Americans just having a conversation, we tend to kind of get down and get real and get authentic as
like
much.
us now.
Yeah, you and I would do that. And
We're
do that.
doing it.
Right. Okay, but hold on. And that's one of the values of your programming always for years now. But hold on a moment. My point is that when it comes to our collective public political dialogue, we have been trained to go stupid. We've been trained to do exactly what you said. When it comes to our public conversation, we're indoctrinated and we think in terms of slogans, and we
Right.
think, and you see it on the left as well as the right. You see it right now with the Democratic Party. This codependent relationship with the DNC. They say Biden is the one. Can we have some independent thought here?
Right.
Can we have maybe some exposure to other candidates? But I think that what I find in my experience is that people hear that and a kind of yearning for a more meaningful public conversation. But there's a lot of obstruction to it. And the media chops the wood and carries the water for the political elite, the
Yeah.
mainstream media. Absolutely.
All enabled by the people.
All enabled by those corporations, which are giving the money to the
who is-
government.
Corporations are people. And
Did you just say corporations are
no,
people?
not in the
that's
legal.
Mitt Romney.
No, that's not in the legal sense. I mean, corporations are made up of people, and people benefit from corporations. And apparently, Americans are not that up in arms about corporations. Now, I agree.
I think it's starting to happen.
Corporations do have a stranglehold on this country.
And that's also completely ridiculous because even if you go to like a Trump rally, we've seen videos from Trump rallies of Trump supporters sounding practically based on the subject of corporate corruption and stuff like that. That's something that unites the political spectrum from right to left to independents. Most people agree that like corruption is bad and that most of it comes from the corporate sector. And because of that, we don't have a democracy. And because of that, we basically do live in a plutocracy where the corporations and the rich people are calling the shot. Everyone knows that. Everyone knows that. And to the extent they aren't participating in politics, it's because of that. It's because they know it's practically meaningless. It's because they know their vote doesn't matter. It's not because they don't care. It's because they've given up. And I think that's pretty understandable. I think it's defensible. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish people would keep fighting and persevere a little bit more. But that's obviously what's happened.
I've always
And
said
on
it.
our government.
Socialism is, I think it should always have been called capitalism plus. Do I think we should get rid of capitalism? Not at all. But there is some need for socialism because there are some things that should not be left to the private sector.
Exactly.
Healthcare being one of them.
Thank you.
Okay,
Tuition-free
but-
college,
well, not
childcare, paid
necess-
family leave,
No.
guaranteed housing, guaranteed sick
Okay,
pay.
well,
Eat
no
'em
one
up,
has this much
Marianne.
money, Marianne. You know, it's so easy.
Wait,
No.
it's the same amount of money. All we're talking when you were talking about the private sector does some things and the public sector
Right.
should be. That's what you have in the hybrid
Okay, but
economies
that's
of
too much.
Scandinavia.
I'm talking about things like the news media, which would cost nothing. If that used to be a lost leader, in other words, they didn't expect to make a profit from it. So it wasn't
Right.
about getting eyeballs.
That's
so the
right.
nightly news didn't have 2 minutes of real news and then a fucking bear in a hot tub.
That's the point, though. It's all become corporate conglomerates. A lot of that came from the
Right.
Telecommunications
Okay.
Act in 1996. It's a bunch of
But
media
here are the
companies
things
profit making rather than educative.
But here are the things I think that got eaten by capitalism that shouldn't have. Prisons,
Correct?
news media,
Correct?
healthcare.
Correct.
When you start
And
going
college,
into
higher education.
no, the
Pause
message
this
we
shit.
send to people about college is wrong.
Pause this. This is the argument that you can always dispel people, right? If we want to accomplish it, the government will decide to fucking do it. So unless Bill wants to bark up the fucking tree that we never went to the moon and that we never, invented computers and that we never actually did any fun things with funding from the government, how about he doesn't argue with the fact that we have what is undisputably the world's most powerful military in existence, and that we have constantly used the funding of taxpayers to put our ability to kill and destroy higher than anything else and make us unparalleled at it based off of any military organization that's ever existed, period. So why could we not make college free? Why could we not give people access to healthcare? Why could we not do these kinds of things that we put our mind to? Instead, we what do? We make planes that don't work, that will never have to fucking fly. We spend billions of dollars on aircrafts, etc. Of course we could do this. There's no reason that college is a bridge too far. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Yeah, it's totally crazy. Plus, he was literally just insulting voters for wanting free healthcare, being like, of course everyone wants free stuff. I want free ice cream or whatever. But now you're admitting that socialized healthcare is necessary and it is something that should be, taken off the private market. So what the fuck was that about then?
Yeah, literally. And also, it sounds like Bill's been listening to Noam Chomsky. No, it's not ice cream, Bill. It's candy that you were talking about.
The message should not be everyone should go to college. College is fucking bullshit, most of it. The message should be we need far less college, and most people don't need college to do whatever job they're doing.
But you're sitting here talking about how people are not thinking deeply
enough. It's a scam, college.
Well,
college
it has
is
become
a
in many
huge
ways.
Scam.
But
higher education. They sell you this ticket because without this ticket,
the only reason why higher education is a scam is because it costs so much. The education itself is good. I have no regrets at all about going to college. I learned a ton during college, made lots of great connections, met lots of good people. I was mentored by professors that I really admired and respected. I will never regret going to college. What I will say is that it wasn't worth the price. The degree certainly was not worth the price. And I think most people will agree to that it's not worth how much it costs. And it's ridiculous that it costs that much. But to the extent it's a scam, it's only because of the fact that it costs money. If you made it free, then it by definition would not be a scam. It would just be like, the other education that everyone else gets, right? No one says that public education is a scam unless you're a total fucking right-wing loser. But all of a sudden college is? No, the only reason it's a scam is because of the price tag.
Yeah, I actually was talking to my dad about this the other day, who I mentioned sometimes is like a longtime Republican, but you know, it's really hard to put it to somebody, and you know, he would agree that like, hey, everybody should just have the opportunity to go to get an education. That is like what it fundamentally means to be American, right? Like a lot of old school conservatives, they want everybody to have access to shit like the library, like a good education, and in this day and age, sure, it doesn't have to be sitting in a fucking classroom and being a TA for somebody while you get your chemistry degree. It could be learning how to weld. It could be learning how to become an electrician. It could be learning how to join a trade union. But we need to create avenues for everybody, because you are going to need some additional skills after you graduate high school in this economy.
Diploma that says you went to college, some 4-year day camp center, you can't get the kind of jobs that pay well. I mean, we know the statistics of people who, what are the salaries of people who don't go to college versus go to college? It's night and day. You need that golden ticket so they can sell it. That's why, of all the things that have been suffering from inflation in the last like 20 years, college the most. It's gone up like 600%.
Well, and you have the college loan debt because these people were told they would close the
That's
pay
part
gap.
of the scam.
That is part of the scam. But there's another value to education, which is much more valuable, and that is the expansion of our thoughts, the expansion of our critical thought
But that's
process.
they're doing the exact opposite on campus. The
In
expansion
many
of your
cases,
thoughts,
they
all
are.
they do on campus is throw people off of it for having thoughts that don't conform to the one true.
Yeah, Bill Maher clearly frequents a lot of campuses. You can tell by how young he looks that he spends a lot of time on his local college campus. Like, what the, bro, you haven't been on a college campus in fucking 50 years. What are you talking about? All you know is what you've seen from stupid Facebook posts and right-wing media trying to fearmonger about college, but you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Literally.
Opinion. I could list 50 professors I've read about who were fired or thrown off just for trying to teach nothing outrageous, just mentioning things.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And the kids, the way these kids have been raised, the ones who go to those elite colleges, where we've all seen that video from Yale. Remember when the girl was going batshit on the professor because his wife had written a little memo saying maybe we shouldn't be such fuss budgets about the Halloween costumes this year. And this kid is just screaming at this professor. And I thought, okay, this is where it all went downhill for this country.
I agree. I was asked to teach. I won't even say what the institution was.
This is where it all went downhill in this country because some school changed their Halloween costume program to be less offensive. Really, that's where it all went downhill. What the fuck?
As the Lynn Stacks points out, funny they're not as concerned about free speech right now.
I said, well, let me go and give a couple of classes or something and I'll see. And I felt so judged by the students. Instead of the teacher grading the papers, I felt that the students were grading me the whole time.
Right.
You shouldn't talk about that. I don't like the way you talked about that. It's like, well, yeah, there are some problems.
And that's you. That's a very liberal, enlightened woman.
About a book I had written, so I kind of knew what I was talking about. No.
I mean, let's just pause there for a moment to think what that means. That you?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean we should get rid of all colleges. It just means there needs to be a transformation there.
But we also can't glide over the fact that that is the head of the snake. That is where the insanity that becomes winds up downstream in your world.
Bro, there's annoying college. Do you think annoying college kids are like a new thing? Did you not have an annoying kid in class when you were in college? Like, is that some new thing? And obviously the difference between Marianne here and Bill is that Marianne's like, yeah, of course, sometimes annoying thing happens. Like, I'm sure that's true, but she's not letting it inform her policy, let alone like her whole entire fucking political perspective, which Bill Maher seemingly is. He's like, this is the number one issue. This is the head of the snake. This is where it all went wrong in this country. And she's just like, yeah, kind of annoying, huh?
In the political world, and then becomes issues like about transgender and racial stuff and what's going on in school boards where people do not like what their kids are being taught in schools. That it begins at the university level.
Well, the people who are complaining about what their kids are being taught in school in general are not the ones who went to those colleges.
Correct. It's the people who are teaching their kids who went to those colleges. Or
she's like, she just completely corrected him, and then he was like, I'm still plowing ahead, and I'm going to pretend I agreed with you, and I wasn't just trying to categorize these as the crazy liberals all under one, because she's 100% right. She's like, pick your argument. Is it the humble working class that didn't go to college that's the problem, or is it the fucking elite institution that's the problem, right? Or is it actually what you correctly identified earlier, which is that the media is controlled by capitalism, which constantly keeps us searching for more culture war issues, which of course manifests itself in our own lives and in politics, such as the parents unhappy about the school boards or the students voicing their displeasure with what's being taught to them at the framework of what's happening. Not not wanting people to wear like offensive and racist fucking costumes, right? Like I'm sure that Bill Maher is really pissed off that he can't wear his drug rug and sombrero out to chips and salsa now, but it's not a good look, Bill.
Or are fans of that kind of thought. And I think a lot of teachers these days are kind of like semi-activists, and they think they can reorder human society, and the easiest way to do
God, Bill, you're so cool most of the time, and then you become this curmudgeon, almost like right-wing sounding. Or what is that?
You don't. Excuse me, that's an ad hominem argument. Should we stick to the facts and the issues, or should I talk about you as on a personal level?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to be like personally insulting.
But I get that. Sometimes it's like, well, I can't really argue with this on the facts, so I'm going to say, oh, you're a mean old man who's saying get off my lawn.
Okay,
and that's not what I am. And let's just stick
Bill
to
Maher
what's
is so sensitive.
reality.
Oh my God, you fucking baby. Did you ever survive as a stand-up comedian? What the fuck is wrong with you? You just made her point right to her face. You are. Not only are you an old man on your lawn, but you're also a butthurt wimp. What the fuck? This is ridiculous, bro. Every comedian I've ever known, or anybody who was even aspiring to be a comedian, has just prided themselves on being able to be ruthlessly dragged and take it on the chin. Oh my God, dude. He is just a fucking triggered little snowflake right there. She mildly pushed back at him. She was being fun with him. They were being playful and bantering on what is supposed to be a fun and playful, and he immediately pulls the plug out underneath it. Are you fucking kidding me? Dude, what a wimp. What a baby.
Yeah, I would have so much more respect if he just owned it and was like, damn straight, call me fucking Clint Eastwood and Gran Torino. I am curmudgeonly. I am pissed off about these fucking youths. Like, just own it. Clearly you are. Clearly you're a boomer now. You're sitting there smoking a fucking cigar and drinking your soda water and bitching about the activist professors and the trans people in sports. You are the fucking old man with the shotgun on his porch. You are a boomer. Just own it.
Okay,
so
I'm
what?
sorry.
Let's go to the reality of there's not indoctrination going on in schools, not all schools, but kids
Are
are
you
not.
talking about little?
I'm talking about
something
all
like-
levels.
Oh, can we pause
All
this
levels,
really quick?
because I've seen the.
Here's how we know that Bill hasn't done a lot of critical thinking. If you say, Bill, or if Bill says there's indoctrination going on at our schools, I would say, yeah, no shit. You ever heard of the Pledge of Allegiance? You ever heard of the fucking way they tell the history of this fucking country? Because it ain't the correct one, right? We teach the kids that, wow, aren't we so lucky we get to grow up in America where we get to learn the facts? And oh yeah, it's just these people were all wonderful demigods, right? They were kings among men. They were infallible, and like just ignore all of the fallibilities. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, they raped, they pillaged, they killed, they enslaved, but they were moral men. Damn it, and there will not be challenged. Like, and they actually get everybody to fucking believe that shit. It's completely ridiculous. They just say, oh yeah, we don't know exactly what happened to all of those Native Americans, but we still are like, yeah, it's called the Trail of Tears, but it really wasn't that bad. And people believe it. That's called indoctrination. We're the greatest country in the world. They say it all the time until you believe it. That's indoctrination, Bill. You want to start there?
Bro, even the phrase tale of tears is in and of itself indoctrination. Like, that's a pretty nice way to phrase a genocide, a trail of tears. It's baked into the fucking cake. Everything about the way we teach history in this country is indoctrination. So yeah, you're 100% right, Zach. There is indoctrination going on. To act like it's coming from the left is fucking insane. To the extent that it's happening is obviously coming from an American exceptionalist, pro-patriotic place that is meant to excuse all of America's crimes, including the Trail of Tears, the fucking genocide that we committed to found our country.
Yeah, we should really call it the Trail of all the dead bodies, blood, You know, fucking. I mean, and even then, it's like you don't even like it. Just all of it. Our understanding of chattel slavery and Reconstruction and everything. It's all fucking wrong. That is indoctrination. Our fucking footprint abroad. Let's talk about our fucking crimes. How much were you taught at school about what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan, Gavin? Except for how we need to support our troops. Remember when the one dude, Spencer, there was a vet that got, or a guy that got killed in action when we were like fucking 13 in Olathe, and he had gone to like the Olathe school district, and that was like the only time we ever discussed the war. Really, it was not what we were doing there. It was how fucking these guys were fighting for our freedom, which unfortunately they just fucking weren't.
Yep, that's also a great point.
The videos. So I know it's not secondhand information I'm being fed by any media source. It's actual videos teachers themselves will make and put up on TikTok, and they'll tell you right away what they're telling their kids.
Yeah, but what about the parents who are complaining about things being just kids being taught history, kids being taught about, the history of race in America, banning books? That's far more concerning to me.
Well, they're banning books from both sides.
No, what? You say they're banning books on both sides. Where is there a left-wing banning of books? What
Well,
have
there
I
has
missed?
been. And
Give me an example.
they tried to do it here in California. I think they tried to get rid of To Kill a Mockingbird.
No, that's not
pause
from
it
the
right
left.
here. Pause it right here. I remember actually. I also read about this school that Bill's talking about. My buddy's wife actually works there, and it's the same school where the kids actually have to shit in litter boxes. Bill, I've read about this place.
Right. And yeah, obviously Marianne chimes in to say it's not the left trying to ban To Kill a Mockingbird. Are you fucking kidding me? I remember conservative evangelical right-wing families in my school district tried to get To Kill a Mockingbird taken out of the fucking curriculum because they didn't like the way it talked about race and dealt, frankly, with topics of racism and white supremacy and all that stuff. It is not the left wing trying to ban fucking To Kill a Mockingbird. And yeah, obviously, we live in a country of what? 330 million people. I'm sure you can find an example of a left-wing academic or a teacher doing something cringy, trying to remove a book because they want to police what people are reading. Like, I'm not saying it never happens, but come on, man. Obviously, the vast majority of indoctrination that goes on in schools is not from the left. The only indoctrination other than the aforementioned, the way we teach history, the only indoctrination I remember encountering in public school was a teacher saying that Islam was wrong and was a sin. That was a Christian teacher who later turned out to be a pedophile, by the way. I also remember hearing that carbon dating was inaccurate science because it disproved the biblical notion of history. That's what I remember hearing, among other right-wing conservative pro-American talking points. That's the indoctrination I remember. I don't remember, hearing about anti-racism or fucking Black Lives Matter or anything like that in school. Admittedly, Zach and I went to school in Kansas, but
But yeah, and we graduated all of 5 years ago. Or no, that's a lie. 7 years ago. Geez, time flies. But you know what I mean? It's like, come on, dude. We were there not that long ago. I remember vividly what was being taught in those schools. I remember that we were not like it was 7th grade, whatever science class you take in middle school. And the lady who since passed away, R.I.P., Mrs. Gardner. She was like, she had weird takes like that too, dude, where she like skipped over the pages where they talked about evolution because she was like, I don't believe in any of that, which is real. That really happened. And she was the same lady that when I said there were only 8 planets, she was like, no, Pluto is still a planet. When I was a kid, we knew it was a planet. I don't know why they keep messing with everything. And that was our science teacher. So that's the kind of indoctrination that you get even in the best public school system in the Midwest. I swear to God, you guys look up the Olathe Public Schools District, that entire Johnson County Public School, it's amazing schools, and we still had to deal with that shit. So yeah, we know where the indoctrination comes from in this country, and it's just completely ridiculous and also almost dishonest to try and act like the fringe groups of people who like, okay, maybe you can find a lady in California that tried to get To Kill a Mockingbird banned because she didn't want the kids in the class to read the N-word or something, right? And now everybody would be like, this is such a horrible like misunderstanding of life, like what people try and talk about when they talk about like education and race in the classroom. It's not like an ignoring all of the bad things that happen to the, you know what I'm saying? Or like, oh, I'm banning Mary Poppins because it says the N-word in it about like a chimney sweep one time. And it's not like, well, yeah, dude, that's how everybody was racist as fuck. And you need to have a conversation about how back in the day the dominant, like just status quo was like extreme ardent racism, but that's no reason not to read like fucking, Oliver Twist or something. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just because there's like one, like, I mean, when you read Huck Finn, you're like, well, I really liked fucking Mark Twain, and he was definitely better off than some of his peers, but he was still kind of racist. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, he was definitely racist.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And that's such a great example, Zach. I remember in 8th grade when we learned about evolution. We went to different middle schools, so I don't know if you had the same experience, but I remember there was a whole day devoted to evolution. And it was the weirdest shit because the teacher, Mr. Gerstenberger, he was my science professor, not professor, he was a teacher, pretty cool guy. He was, I liked him. He wasn't like a loser. He wasn't a crazy conservative or anything like that. But the day we learned about evolution was so weird. Before learning about it, we had to go around the room and every single student had to say what they knew about evolution and whether or not they believed in it. So every student, most of them didn't know anything. I heard from my parents that it was fake. I don't really know much. I was like the only person that actually knew what it was and who came up with a theory and all that
Star
stuff.
pupil Gavin.
Exactly. So I was ready for that day, but everyone else wasn't. And then at the end of the class, like in the last 5 minutes, Mr. Gerstenberger was like, all right, so now, this is very controversial. Here is the theory. It is technically a theory. Not everyone agrees with it. Now everyone go home and have a great day. It was like the weirdest fucking lesson. He couldn't just teach evolution. It had to be like this weird dance between like, I know your parents have probably said some things about this and there's a lot of different beliefs out there. But this is what some scientists are saying. It's like, bro, it's just a fact. It's just a scientific theory, the same way you would teach gravity. Imagine if they taught gravity that way or any other scientific theory that's basically accepted as fact. But no, that's the indoctrination.
Evan, God dang it. I've told you time and time again, we are anchored to this planet with God's love.
Anyway, crazy stuff to
Gravity
see Bill Maher.
And all that liberal hootenanny, whatever the who hells tells you what. God put us here, and that's why we're here. Dang it, stop asking so many gosh dang questions.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, it's happened. You're right. It's more from the right. But
He
again,
backs off so
some of the
fast, he has
books
no
that they're
examples.
being taught, I mean, I saw a very interesting video of a guy, he was at a school board meeting, and
Yeah, he can't actually name an example. He immediately backtracked on the To Kill a Mockingbird thing. So now he's reaching for some anecdote. Well, I saw a TikTok of someone at a school board meeting doing something. So now you've moved the goalpost. You're not even talking about activist teachers or activist. Now you're talking about some random person at a school board meeting who was upset. Completely different thing.
Oh, I saw lids of TikTok. Oh.
he was reading from the book that the little kids these are being taught from. And it got very graphic. And so parents
How
in the
graphic
room
did it
in the
get?
school boarding are start to say, please,
Who wrote the book?
Please, it's
What graphic images did they describe, Bill? Please go on. Define graphic? Like, it's so obviously that it's so obvious. It's been obvious from jump that he was just going to make this up, that he was going to pull it out of his fucking ass because Marianne put the nuts to him. One, he already got so fucking triggered, and so now she's being a little extra nice to him. I understand. It was completely like just overreaction from his part, but now she's got him on the ropes a second time, and she's like, all right, Bill, like, tell me about it. And he's making up like a fucking anecdote right here. He's trying to decide what he can sell to her. He's literally doing the thing where, like, what can I get away with? What can I tell her that, it's going to be vague enough that I haven't completely abandoned the point that I was making, but that we stopped talking about it. And she says, well, I haven't heard of that. And he's like, well, it's there. Yeah, it's there, lady. And she's got like a dozen examples if you want some of like fucking like, every classic book that comes to your mind being banned in places like Florida, but he's like, yeah, there's some real graphic imagery being read to, children. Meanwhile, it's like Tessa the Dubervilles, and it's like, yeah, dude, sorry, that was too rough for you, but like,
Yeah, plus this is just a totally different conversation. Now we're not even talking about book banning anymore. Now you're the one advocating for book banning, right? By saying that the shit is too graphic in the books. So this
literally.
is just a different argument altogether. You lost that one, so now you're just taking the other side because so fucking stupid.
It's too much. We're at a school board meeting, and he said, "Okay, it's okay for you to read this to your children, but I can't read it here among the adults."
Yeah.
Now, excuse me if I told that story before, but it bears repeating. I mean, it's not a story. I saw it. It's again, one reason I like to watch things.
He doesn't remember anything about it, but he tells this story all the time. It's a real story. Many people have asked about it. He's told them about it. It's real. No, why would you even insinuate that it wasn't real when you can't remember exactly precisely anything that it is that had to do with that particular story, the book?
Oh, I've said it before, but it bears repeating in the most vague possible way. Yeah.
Really
it
left an
bears repeating.
impact on you, Bill. So graphic. Can't even remember what it was. Blocked it out.
Like that is because,
PTSD.
okay, now I'm getting stuff firsthand. I'm not getting a New York Times report of what happened at the school board meeting. I'm seeing it.
Well, I think you're right that there's this fringe element on both left and right. There's no doubt about that. And Eisenhower was, famously said that the American mind at its best is both liberal and conservative. I mean, there are high-minded conservative values and high-minded liberal values, and we all need to recognize that and listen to other people rather than judge so quickly. And
But given your
sometimes-
experience that you just relayed to me
Mhm.
on, you don't want to say the college, but I'm sure we can look it up.
Oh, yeah, it was Union Theological Seminary.
Okay. All right. So, a seminary. even the kids at the seminary are woke. Oh my God, this is worse.
Yeah,
than
it
I
was
thought.
actually.
That is fucking amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, so given that situation, just anecdotally, you
Bill
don't
Maher,
feel like there
Bill Maher.
is a problem in the education.
It's like, where are the fascists? Who's gonna be a cop? Who's gonna run this country? Who's gonna protect my wealth? What the fuck am I gonna do? He's getting concerned now. He's like, even at the seminary, they're not. Fuck, dude. Who's gonna keep control of society, bro? What the fuck? Who's gonna keep those fucking animals away from me? I need all my wealth. I need all my security. Jesus Christ, I'm gonna have to start raising my wages around here, otherwise I'm gonna be in trouble. Oh gosh. This is what's on Bill's mind now.
System in this country that it's too much indoctrination, too little actually learning anything. I mean, how about the fact, I know we should teach history plainly and for real. And by the way, even back when I was in school, they did teach us about slavery. They did teach us it was wrong. We didn't dwell on it like they do now, but yes, and we should have been teaching more about
Pause that. He just stepped in so much shit. And he doesn't even realize, we learned that they didn't tell us slavery was good, bro. But after that, we just kind of moved on. This fucking century of fucking extreme horror that we imposed on people that we went all the way to another continent, stole from their communities, and again terrorized them for generations, stole all of the wealth that they produced and used it to create our own opulent country, build the biggest military in the world, and take over the entire globe. But we didn't really mention it too much. Nobody thought it was worth talking about. We were just like, oh yeah, we enslaved some black people and they built our country and now we let them go. And yeah, fucking zoinks. I don't know what to say about it. Like, why is everybody acting like this is such a big deal? Like, that's literally how he's just like shrugging it off. Like human chattel slavery for over 100 years. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. And again, if you're not a total idiot, you can understand that can be taught properly and accurately without like making white people feel bad. Like when you learn about the Holocaust in history class, is there ever any sort of like implication that, I guess Germans, like modern day German people, should really feel bad about what happened back then? No, obviously no one takes that away from it because people know how to, sophisticatedly understand and learn history. But when it comes to this, for whatever reason, Americans, white people in specifically, are so fucking triggered by it because they can't separate themselves from the history of their ancestors. It's like, I feel like most normal white people like ourselves, we don't have any problem understanding and reckoning with the history because we understand that those sins aren't our sins. It's an important thing to understand about the country and why things are so unequal today, but it's not anti-white. It's just history. It's just what happened. So it's very, I find it very like weak almost to hear that and then somehow assume or project onto that it's, so you're saying it's my fault? Like, no one is saying that, bro. We're just teaching what happened.
Yeah, it's his reflexive fragility though. Like he's just like everything is like a affront to him. And he's, that's because he's a fucking rich old white asshole who's out of touch and relies on his legacy fans because he's incapable of making actual comedy. He just has to rely on boomer talking points.
Yep, and that's the word I was looking for, by the way. Fragile. That is exactly the word. White Fragility. That's my favorite book, actually. You guys should check it out.
about that period and more about that and how bad it was. Yes. Okay. But now I think we've gone to a level where that's only what they teach is the kind of areas where they want people to have a political view on something. And if you test the kids on actual history, like basic history, they have no clue because they
Well,
don't teach history. They don't teach anything.
there are some people in this country who only want to talk about what America did right and have no listening for places we got it wrong.
And wrong.
And there are other people who only want to talk about what we did wrong and have no recognition of where we got it right. And I think that's
Right.
really missing the point. Because if you really look at the facts, we are a glorious trajectory of both and.
Of course.
And that's what I think every generation needs to understand in
No,
order.
that's the mature
It's kind
way
of
to
like
look.
learning about your family history. You know, where did my family get it right? I want to stand on the shoulders
Right.
of those who got it right and even do it better. And where did I inherit some things that I want to stop right here so that I don't pass it on to my kids? To me, that's the value of learning history, and definitely the value of learning American history. And I know when I ran last time, I don't know what the statistics are now. When I ran last time, 11 states didn't even require half a year of American history, civics, or government.
Right.
Now, if a child is not taught about the Bill of Rights
Okay,
Right.
but can
in
we
those
pause this
younger
actually?
years, how do
I think this is actually a huge misnomer in the American education system. And Gavin and I were pretty again, Gavin, speak to this if it was not your experience, but at least in the state of Kansas, and I believe it's the same in the state of Missouri, you learn about American history like 80 fucking times. What you don't learn about is anything else that's useful to you, right? I took AP US history, right? I took US government. I took let's see. So let's go through. Like, let's just look at one. You learn all about American history in 8th grade. Then you go to high school and they make you learn about, like, the Renaissance freshman year and, like, what's it called? Pre-AP modern world history, I think, is what they made me take when I was a freshman in high school. And then after that, you could take like AP European history as an option, but you didn't have to. And then the next thing you took was American history, like AP US history, whatever. Those kinds of things. And you could take AP government after that. And that's after you spent your entire childhood learning all kinds of fun facts about the American Revolution. And this is what happened with Lewis and Clark and all these kinds of things. So I just think that I almost called him Boomer, that Boomer over here, Bill, is just really, he's off base with this guy. Like, yeah, Bill wants to go toe to toe with somebody like me or Gavin on American history. Let's have at it, dude. I will win that quiz game. I am fucking good at it, dude. I know American history to a T. And it's crazy. And it's also just not borne out by statistics. If you want to do a quick Google search about what the most educated generation is, it's not you, Bill. So I don't know. Again, he has to completely misrepresent reality in order to make his point. And that's why, he doesn't have a good case over here. And like, are there things that young people can learn from older people? Sure, but it's not about how to understand American history. These guys are married to all kinds of inequality. They're married to all kinds of mythology, and they refuse to let it go. And that's why it's so hard for them when they see so many young people just living in the reality. Yes, even in the seminary, people have grown up in the 21st century. They can Google whatever they want, and they realize that America's been up to no good. And it's been acting extremely selfishly, and also still, through all of its international selfishness, still distributes its wealth domestically so unequally.
Yep, 100%. By the way, JR Jr., in what year will the Vanguard make their first appearance on Real Time? I don't know about Real Time, but what I would do is go on this dingy ass fucking Club Random. Is that what he calls it? I would drink a fucking Arnold Palmer with Bill Maher, smoke a cigar in this dimly lit fucking shithole.
Hey, yeah, Bill, what's up, big buddy? Yeah. So where are all the broads, huh? I know you got some fucking. No, Bill Maher is a famous horn dog, which is what I would just like. I don't know. I would get bad energy from that guy, but it is true that I'm sure that he would be fun to kick it with for an evening. And I've also been wondering the whole time, is he smoking a blunt? It doesn't look like quite fat enough to be a cigar, but it does look like one of the Mike Tyson blunts. So I'm like, that would be so funny. Marianne would know because she would be able to smell. But yeah,
Bill is definitely pro weed, so it might be. Although, yeah, I don't know if he would have the balls to just smoke in front of Marianne like that. I don't know if she would be. Some people might be like, I don't want to be breathing in the smoke. I don't know if Marianne personally partakes.
A lot of people would say that about cigar smoke. I would way rather you smoke weed in front of me than
That's a
fucking
good point.
tobacco.
That is a good point. I do think this podcast is like super goofy. The whole Club Random thing. because it's trying so hard to make it look like, oh, yeah, this is DIY little studio I set up in my garage or something. I got these ratty old chairs and this old clock next to me and all this stuff. But it's just like on like some corporate set somewhere, like some closed set somewhere. I do find the whole aesthetic pretty goofy. Even the name Club Random, it just sounds so like try hard, like a boomer trying to be cool.
Oh yeah, it's when you finally lost your last touch with any generation that came before you, and you just return to your man cave. I respect it. I would prefer Bill did the Club Random only. You know what? Free up the real time for somebody from the last couple decades.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess we can watch a bit more of this.
Do they know to be horrified when it's under an assault, and the only
Correct.
thing people are telling them about is the Second Amendment? So yeah, we have to pass these things on generation to generation, or people don't even know what they should be protecting, much less expanding.
No, when
they don't know to be horrified when you have something like the Supreme Court actually diminishing our rights rather than expanding them.
Yeah, or a more blatant example would be Trump trampling on norms. We heard that so much when he was president, and he did, and then he went right to breaking laws and stuff. But, certainly if you don't know what the norm is, then how are you going to know that he's breaking it? Then it doesn't become alarming to you what he's.
That's right. You don't say, what's the big deal that he did that? Because if that person never learned in school, once again, the meaning, the purpose of education. I remember there was a story when he first became president, and so his administration, someone came in and they were telling him the basics, I guess, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the preamble, the Bill of Rights. And he was like a little boy who went,
right, I know. Oh, I know.
Yeah.
No, I'm beginning to think he was not a good president.
Yeah.
But no,
starting to occur to us there was a problem there. And that doesn't even get into what's going to happen now.
The opening of.
And again, as fucking idiotic and brain dead and just too far gone as Bill Maher seems to be on so many issues, at least he's still a little bit smarter than the Michael Tracys and the Aaron Mates of this world. At least he can admit that Trump is a criminal and was a terrible president.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's so sad because I think that's one of the benefits of Bill Maher being so out of touch, right? Is that he hasn't been infected by all those poisonous ideas, right? I think he's the perfect guy. He's their perfect target mouthpiece if they could ever get in there. And make him start, I really do value free speech. I could just hear Bill saying that and talking about, it does start to raise concerns. And I was no fan of Donald Trump. I always put him. I could see him. It's sad. That's the bar, 100%. That it's devastating that is the bar.
One other clip I wanted to share from this. I don't want to, subject you guys to the entire hour, but this is a pretty good clip that someone was sharing on Twitter. So I thought we could end by reacting to this.
I'm also saying that when you just ride around, you just see a country that does not look like it's falling apart.
Bill.
My eyes also matter. It matters what I read and what people tell me. It also matters that I just live in this world and I travel a lot and I'm out in the city a lot. And a lot of people are just living their best lives. And they're not all fucking rich. It's not all the top 20%. For all its horrible problems, this country still somehow. How we got through the pandemic and didn't go broke, I don't know. I mean, we probably will in the future. Maybe it's the inflation is part of that issue. But I just don't see a country where the people are just seething and unhappy when I'm out. And that has to count for something.
You know where I was last night? I was speaking to teenagers on Skid Row. Do you know how many people are homeless in Los Angeles County on any given night? 70.
If you go to Skid Row, you're going to. Okay.
That's my point. You say you drive around.
Oh my God.
Drive around.
Okay.
You don't drive too many miles.
Of course. Why would I go to Skid Row?
That's kind of my point. So you don't really. You say I don't see anybody going through that. That's right.
Don't.
You're not driving there.
And most
They're
people
more than
don't.
an underclass.
Yes.
There's this invisibilized.
Yes.
Feel.
Oh my God, dude, amazing. Of course, that was I can't believe he showed his ass so hard there. He just gives his bag away. He's like, well, I wouldn't go there. Yeah, no shit. You only go to the nice places in LA where you have to be rich as fuck to even sit down at the table. Okay, because the cheeseburger's $48, but I didn't see anybody that looked too unhappy in there. You know what I mean? Like, are you fucking kidding me, Bill? You were so detached from reality. You are so detached from reality. And honestly, it'll just show you, like, there's only two lanes if you want to make it in media. You're either talking about how there is no crime. What crime? I don't see any crime. I only see the fucking greatest, country in this world. How, God dang it. After COVID, how did we stay so great, man? The tulips are even brighter, right? Yada, yada, yada. Or you have the Anna Kasparian approach,
Right.
the Ben Shapiro approach, where this country's on fire, damn it. And we used to mean something and people used to mow their lawn and fucking, whatever.
Yeah, imagine saying that as someone who lives in California, where 30% of the nation's homeless population lives, despite just having 12% of the overall nationwide population. And you're sitting here everyone has it great where I live. I drive around and go around town and everyone seems happy. And she's like, well, what about the place in your city where there's a massive concentration of misery and homelessness? He's like, well, why would I go there? Well, of course, I'm not going to go to that part of town. It's like, well, yeah, that's why you don't see the devastation that you're denying exists.